Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I'm having a fantastic week. And I have a fantastic week almost every week because I make it a point to. Honestly, that's a that's a big factor. I look at things very positively, and I always make sure I have a really good week, even if shit goes wrong. It's bound to go wrong. It's just a matter of how it works. So, I had an interesting conversation yesterday afternoon with an IT provider that I wanted to just bring up and discuss because I think it's a very relevant thing in today's MSP cybersecurity MSSP marketplace. I think it's a very relevant discussion. We had a discussion. He booked an appointment with me to talk about growing his business, which we had a great talk. But his big sticking point was, I do not want to raise my rates. I want to stay the cheapest in my market. And this actually, like, some of you are sitting there like, what? Why? What? But it happens. This comes across. We speak to a lot of different business owners every single month, every single week, actually. But new ones. Most of our clients, which are all MSPs, usually seven-figure MSPs, they kind of get it now. Why it's not good to be cheapest, but this is a consistent issue that we see across the board. And the thing I want you to be careful with, and the reason that the guy wanted to be the cheapest really had nothing to do with him wanting to win the business. It had to do with him feeling that he was going to potentially rip off his client. And that was interesting to me, because the bottom line, like, to me, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't think so, because this is, we go out there and we deliver a really good service to people. And we charge more than most other consulting firms. That's by design. I'm not going to be I purposely am not going to be the cheapest because I don't want to be. I don't want to ever have somebody come into my service and says, Weiser's the cheapest, seven-figure MSP is the cheapest, we're going to go with him. Because look at how the decision of the prospect gets made. How they make their purchase is completely decided based on one thing: price. I want to make sure that you can come into my program and see massive value and massive potential for growth and investment in yourself. And that's why you choose our program. That's key. That should be the same thing with the MSP side, the MSSP side. You are creating massive value. You are protecting a lot of things. And the challenge is, most of you have allowed this market to dictate a lot of things based on the way the market itself thinks, which people that are uneducated about their own market oftentimes fall back to the lowest common denominator. And they look at it and they say, oh, it's only about price. My only differentiator is about price. The value of your offering, remember this: you are a problem solver. You are not a stack seller. You are not a tool seller. You're not a product seller. You are a problem solver. If you understand that, there's no rip-off value. If you think about it that way. Now, granted, if you portray it as we are the cheapest or we're going to be the most expensive, and you go in with those mindsets, you potentially could come across that. But if you go in with a value built presentation and you properly show all these different things, there is no way for you to be overcharging your client, especially if you're doing it with the right modules and showing the right value in all these different pieces. So just understand that, because being the cheapest is never going to be a win. Not unless you're selling, like, I don't know, coffee, maybe. And that's even probably tough. That's not a great example because Starbucks is probably the most expensive and one of the biggest. But a lot of things that are commoditized, the only way they make a decision on the product is based on price. So just think about that as you're going, and don't worry about, like, there's some stigma that's attached to, I'm going to make a good margin and I'm going to have a successful business. It's very much okay to be profitable. It's very much okay to be in business to make money. It's very much okay to be wealthy. It's okay to do that. You don't have to apologize to anyone. It's okay to charge proper margins. Part of the issue, again, this industry as a whole has charged way too cheap for way too long because we were selling widgets. We were selling commodities. And now what's really cool, and I say this to my clients all the time, it's the best time ever to be an MSP. Best time ever to be a cybersecurity expert. Best time ever. Why? Because we're finally in a place where even the damn government is standing up and saying, IT is an essential service. You guys have to have them. People are being forced to work from home. And so COVID has been, there's a silver lining and, there's opportunity in every disaster. These different scenarios are really, really key. So it's really, really key that you stay on top of being the best, showing your value, doing all these different things. COVID has really killed it for us. Like there's an opportunity right now, huge opportunity in disaster. Also, in all the other things, we're coming up this slide and we could see deals in our clients closing like crazy right now for higher money than we've ever had because cybersecurity, hacking, work from home, all these things have forced businesses to respect IT. They force businesses to appreciate IT. They force businesses to start to budget for IT. Now, you guys can't also fall into the trap of being the cheapest because that's what way it was always done. Make sure you have a sales process. Make sure you have a sales machine running underneath you. So process, procedure, presentation, multi-step assessment process, all these things are really, really key to getting the right values. And when we talk about the right values, our clients are closing deals. We had a guy that yesterday on our coaching call, he had a 3-user deal, closed it for $300 a seat per month, all in, including cybersecurity and all these different pieces. Yes, I understand that, but $300 a seat per month on a 3-year contract on a 3-user deal. That's a small side. We had another guy that closed a $600,000 deal on a 5-year deal. I don't remember exactly the seat numbers on that one, but bottom line is deals are closing right now. They're happening, but it does not have to come down to you being the cheapest. It should never come down to you being the cheapest, and that's okay. You do not have to. You're not a bad guy if you charge proper numbers. So keep that all in play. Just want to come on and say that to you guys because I kind of had a thought about it. If you got any questions, comments, hit me up here. Actually, really good comment here. Actually, I just saw this one. Let me show this one. It's from Danny Taylor. Danny's one of my elite Inner Circle members. Danny just said there will be a confirmation bias if you try to be the cheapest. You'll only attract price-conscious customers. These tend to be the problematic ones too. 100% agree, Danny. That's really key, buddy. It's really, really important. Also, another really good comment here from Umut Bitlisli. Sounds like he didn't understand the value of his offering. That's the previous guy that I talked about earlier in the video. So totally agree with both you guys. Happens to be that they're both my clients. So that's really key. Here's another comment here. This is from Brian Hornung. Brian doesn't like to say his last name on Facebook, so we'll let him be Brian Michael. We have the same middle name, buddy, too, by the way. I'm Christopher Michael. There's a mindset, I think, where people don't want to charge that much because there's actual work involved. That's interesting. I never thought about it that way. It's not about throwing agents and software on systems and hoping for the best. Yeah. There is a group of, I'll say this, for the most part, the MSPs that I meet for the most part, I'm going to say like 95% of MSPs are good techs. They're good MSPs. They care about that. It's a very rare thing that we see somebody that's just like, oh my God, you're the worst MSP I've ever seen. There is the occasion. Don't get me wrong. We've seen a couple of those. But for the most part, they're good techs. It's the problem they have is they forget that they need to have sales and they need to have a marketing engine, a sales and marketing engine. And I'm a huge believer that sales is first. You need to have a sales process. You need to know how to sell. You need to do all these things first before you get leads, because there's this giant cyclical problem that, and I see this more with one-man shows as they start to grow before anything, because they get to this point and it becomes a circle. They get to this point where they have enough leads and they have enough sales that they start to have enough work for themselves and they start to make enough money to do okay. But then all of a sudden they get to like 50 seats and they have too much work and they can't do it. And they're not making enough money to hire a person. And then it's this giant world where they're working too much and they can't hire a person because they're not charging enough. That all, it's this giant circle of death, the circle of MSP death. So if you think about that, if you do not have a sales process first, you have to properly sell ahead of time. I could hand most MSPs the perfect lead, literally the perfect lead. And they'd find some way using the way that they currently sell, and they'd turn it into a price-based, non-value, non-services based offering. And then it just comes down to trading hours for dollars and you're back in the same world you're at. And to give you guys an idea of the average number, the average amount that comes in, like when we interview people for our program, we take a lot of survey questions and we look at how much MRR they have. We look at how many seats they have. The average number that comes into our program to start, even in the interviews, is $62 a month per seat. That's what the average MSP, and that's worldwide. That's, we have clients all over the world. But that's a pretty big issue, because if you start to add cybersecurity on that, and some of these, most aren't doing cybersecurity, I'll say that. So it's not nearly as bad. But they think that they have a ton of margin in that, but they're not factoring in the cost of all their people. And for the most part, if they, they kind of don't have people if they're in that world too. So it's interesting things to think about. So here's a really good comment. I can't see who this is because it doesn't say, but this is exactly part of the deal. This is from Facebook user. What the note is, I'm using a product called StreamYard to stream this. And if they don't allow StreamYard to see their permissions, then I can't see what their username is. That's what that is. So for whoever's question this is, you can go in and allow permissions. That's how they do it. But really good point here. It's hard to hold your prices where you need them at when you're desperate for additional cash flow, but you must not lower your prices to get a quick sale. So that's actually it. And the biggest thing that I see MSPs doing is they're so desperate for a sale or so desperate for a close that they'll kind of take anything. But the challenge, I get it. Like, I understand that. I understand the why. But the challenge with that, first of all, the power of no is mind blowing. You being able to say no to a client without being a jerk, keep in mind, but a respectful, I can't work with you for that kind of number, or checking what their budgets are. A respectful no is huge. Like, that wins a lot, almost all the time. Okay. Second thing is, if you do this way from now on, you're going to be in that cyclical world that I'm talking about. So you have to be okay. And you have to be confident in saying no, but part of that comes with knowing you have a process you can fall back on and knowing the why you're saying no, right? So much of this is understanding the psychology of where you're at and all the different pieces of where you're at. All these different pieces add up, and that's where you come into play. So really good comments, guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate the chat on that. I got to run into a call. I'm actually 1 minute late for a call. I didn't realize what time it was. So I got to run. You guys have a great day. Keep crushing it. Just had that thought and wanted to bring it to you all. Talk soon. If I don't see you, have a good weekend. Talk soon. See you.